Hey everybody, Bill here. Just making a little video, maybe a start, maybe this will be a snip that gets added on to the rest. But right now I'm looking at my wiring harness, kind of looking at trying to prep where everything, is gonna be. Everything's gonna set. Here's my manifold temp, idle air control, TPS, throttle position, coolant temp sensor. I was looking at how this harness was set up, and right down here in the loom, right here, here's my fuel pressure. And my fuel pressure sensor is all the way in the back. In this loom, I kind of separated it back. It had my fuel pressure going up here to the front. It had it up here. So I opened up this main loom right here and just kind of worked the wires back as best I could. Some of them are wound inside of each other, so it's not like every wire is separated. So I just rewound it back, kind of turned it around a little bit here at this point, and wrapped some black tape around it. So all I'm doing is I've got my loom laid out, got it laid out all the way here, kind of coming down on my welding table, and I'm just kind of looking at where everything is, where everything's set up. Here's the crank position sensor. Mine is up on the front driver's side of the engine. So trying to figure out the logistics of exactly where everything's gonna be. I'm looking at the wires, and this goes to the wide band O2 sensor. So this one here on my car is going to be in the back, so this isn't going to go through. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to stuff all of this inside. I'm going to come over on the car, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to stuff this whole thing right down in here, and so that all of my wiring will sit right in here in the middle of my intake, and then hopefully I'll be able to route everything out of it, out of the sides, out like right here between the runners. I'll be able to pull everything out and plug them into where they're supposed to be. So that's what I'm working on right now. All right, everybody, I'm playing around with my harness here, and really got me thinking after I did a little bit of a reroute on my harness, and I rerouted my fuel pressure. I don't know if you guys can see it. Somewhere in here it says fuel. So I have a 100 psi fuel pressure sensor. This plugs into the harness so that the Terminator can watch your fuel pressure and see what your fuel pressure is. It's sitting on a 6AN. It's just a block, like a gauge block, and it has an 1/8 inch NPT female threads cut in it, so I threaded this fuel pressure sensor into it. So I also went ahead and cut my fuel line and made a shorter piece and installed a T. The way I had this set up originally is my fuel lines come in from the tank, go right here into the regulator. This is my fuel pressure regulator. And it goes out right here, right back to the tank. So it's gonna hold my fuel pressure, and then whatever it doesn't need, it's gonna let go right back to the tank. And here's my fuel line coming right over here to my inject rail. And right here at the injector rail, I just had it going into the rail, and then I have a T can't really see it well, but I just had it teed across the front. You can kind of see it better from here, where I just came across from the driver's side rail over into the passenger side rail, and then I went to the back. So I started looking at where I was going to put my fuel pressure sensor, and also that it would probably be a better idea if I just went ahead and kicked my little ladder here, my little footstool, just went ahead and went around the back. So what I did is I installed a T. I just got a T fitting right here, and I put a T fitting in. Don't mind this. This is a vacuum hose that's just kind of in the way. I don't know how easy it is for everybody to see all this. With all this, everything's painted black. My lighting is not ideal, but I put a T fitting in right there. So I cut down this hose right here, coming off of my regulator. I cut it down, put a fitting in here. I actually used I think it's a 30-degree fitting, just to kind of keep it away from the firewall. You can see how that fitting just kind of jogs out a little bit, just to kind of keep that fuel line right here from rubbing on the firewall. Comes out and just jogs itself this way, going back into the regulator. So, and then I took the piece, the other half of it, which was this was the other half that originally it just went all the way across. So I cut this and I put another fitting on the end. I actually had about maybe 1.5 inches or so left over, and I cut this piece. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to hook these two together, and then this is going to sit over on the passenger side off of the back of the fuel rail, and then this is going to just tie into the T. So what I'll have is I'll have my fuel going into kind of a big square, or a big circle, if you would. So it's going to go all the way around. It's going to be able to provide fuel pressure to both sides through the back and also down the rail through the front. So hopefully that'll better equalize my fuel pressure and make it so that I'm not starving any injectors. I know there's a lot of people on the internet that talk about if you just hook your fuel right here and let it run all the way down here, of course, you have injectors right here all the way along. There's an injector here, there's an injector here, there's an injector back here hiding, and there's another one back there hiding. So you have injectors all the way along here taking fuel. And then your fuel goes down this rail and it jumpers across. And it jumpers across this way into this rail. And then it starts getting into your fuel injector here, one there, and one in the back. So there's a theory that a lot of people talk about that rear injector can actually get starved for fuel, or the rear injectors or the injectors on this side, depending on how much fuel you're taking. I used 6AN. I did not use 8AN. I was told 6AN would be plenty of fuel, that there's people running around making 1,000 horsepower on 6AN lines. So I decided not to go to the bigger 8ANs. I don't believe I'm ever going to reach 1,000 horsepower or close to it. So I'll be back. I'm going to go ahead and put those together. I'm going to slide that thing in there and connect them to this T, and I'll show you what I got in 2 minutes and 2 seconds. Okay, so what I've got is I'm hooked up to this T right here, coming off of my fuel pressure regulator around the back of my flashlight and going into my T. So my T goes around the back It also goes down here to this fuel rail like I talked about earlier. Comes over here, ties into the other fuel rail. And then all the way in the back right here, comes into that elbow. And there's my fuel pressure sensor, 100 PSI fuel pressure sensor. And my Holley Terminator harness will plug into that. And that will let it monitor my fuel pressure. So, there you go. Fuel pressure sensor installation complete. One more little step towards getting this thing to run, hopefully soon. Thanks. I hope you guys have a great day.